everyone. I'm Brandon Watson with the Capital Area MPO, and thanks for allowing the time today for me to give a final briefing of the Northeast Area Study Update. So we previously gave an update to the Wake County Planning Board back in January of this year. So I wanted to give a conclusion of the project, highlighting work that was done, a brief summary of our second round of outreach, and the final products. If you recall, we started the project in February of 2020 with existing conditions and had our first public engagement touch point last summer. The second phase was to analyze where we met with stakeholder and technical team members on some land use and area planning, as well as some hotspot concept designs last summer. Our last phase is finishing up now, where we held our second round of public engagement, taking comments on draft recommendations and priorities. Next, regarding the last engagement period, which was the virtual open house in late February, early March of this year, the open house, interactive maps, and survey were open and available 24/7 for 3.5 weeks, and it's all still viewable through the project website. And if you happen to visit it, it looked like the image there on the right as a virtual open house tent. This slide shows a summary of visitors to the open house tent. We had more than 700 unique visitors who accessed the virtual open house. 300 surveys were completed in this round alone, and we received over 50 additional comments and 150 points added to the interactive maps. The bottom chart shows the project website with almost 1,500 unique visitors as well. Each of the questions we asked in the survey were focused on prioritization and implementation, and they were framed as ranking or rating from least important to most important. Combining and averaging all of the answers gave us a starting point for prioritizing projects. We also folded in timeframe horizon years from the MTP, which has funding considerations. And then our third factor, as you see down on the bottom right, was a future year deficiency analysis. So what are our needs now and what are our needs in the future? There's a few resources I want to highlight. One is a separate document of a summary of the public outreach engagement. The next one is the policy guidebook there on the bottom. It builds on previous effort from the 2014 Northeast Area Study. We reviewed adopted policies and plans for what's changed and what's still recommended to be updated for each community. We also took into consideration most recent best practices. And last is a project workbook. It holds recommendations and priorities as we move forward. The table of contents for the workbook is shown here. I'm going to quickly go through each chapter to give you a brief idea of what's included. The first chapter holds the context for the project. It's an update to the 2014 plan. There were 11 communities involved, and it talks about the study area boundary. Chapter 2 is the planning framework and is really all about the process. It includes outreach tools, the guiding technical and stakeholder advisory groups, and all the other tools we use to create a renewed vision. The next section is a regional snapshot, which is basically an existing conditions analysis. So we looked at what's there now and what does the data project is going to happen moving forward. Chapter 4 was the scenario planning, and this was one of our main focuses of the presentation back in January. So we played a what-if game about development and redevelopment in your community through a variety of exercises with the stakeholder and technical team. Chapter 5 includes hotspot concept designs, including 5 unique corridors selected through a data-driven process. We looked at what could be improved in the near and midterm, and the most important part is that there are other corridors like these, so we can kind of replicate these concepts to other locations. In these hotspot concept designs, we look to address locations that have a unique challenge. Concept designs included elements such as bicycle pedestrian integration, complete streets, development, redevelopment concerns, safety, or other issues, and represent up to 20% preliminary engineering design. We had 3 rounds of meetings for each location with local staff and NCDOT division and engineering staff. Hotspots in the NEAS update in Wake County included adding new access to US 1 at Stadium Drive, as shown here in Wake Forest, and this was considering the closure of access with NCDOT's US 1 freeway project. The second one is in Wendell on Roadway Road, providing full movement access at I-87, where there's currently only 1 inbound and 1 outbound ramp. The third one is along Proctor Road in Zebulon, and this was providing more crossing opportunities, consolidating driveways, and improving safety with a roundabout on one end and an intersection improvement on the other end to the east, as you can see there. And then last is US 64 Business or Knightdale Boulevard in Knightdale, looking at safer pedestrian crossings and building parallel routes to connect properties to help build a local street network along the really heavily traveled corridor. So our next chapter was roadway and freight. We ended up with almost 360 roadway projects altogether, and they were split out by different improvement types. These are shown here at the bottom. They included widenings, new locations, as well as some access management, grade separation, and intersection realignments to improve safety and visibility. After public engagement in a couple of months, we added 19 new projects and refined a number of other existing projects. All recommendations were then placed into 3 buckets of priority: near, mid, and long term. We started with survey data from the public engagement period and what we heard from stakeholder groups, and then factored in future volume and capacity, so what's needed in that deficiency analysis. We also included development density and the project timeframe from the previous MTP. For example, the map here shows near-term projects in green that would have the greatest impact in the short term. Moving on to transit, first mile and last mile solutions was really important to the community. Micromobility is also a popular idea right now, such as the Northeast Wake County Microtransit Study, and then increasing frequency and weekend service improvements are some cost-effective near-term solutions as our ridership and demand increases as well. The midterm includes some additional extensions like extending bus service to Franklinton and Youngsville, as well as to the Eastern Regional Center in Zebulon. Also, support for passenger rail in the northern corridor through the S-line is still progressing and a key transit recommendation for the study. In the long term, the study proposes bus rapid transit extensions into Knightdale and Wake Forest. A circulator route between the NEAS towns and Wake County was also an important connection to provide access to areas that don't currently have bus service. And then last year we had East Trans, which is the rail line through Knightdale, Wendell, and Zebulon, and that was still a really big interest in Eastern Wake County. And then last year we have the walking and biking maps, and this was all about connectivity, it seemed like. Because we really wanted to demonstrate flexibility, we broke the projects into 4 categories. Complete Street Urban addresses the need to retrofit where we can to serve all modes and improve safety. And then the next category is street redesign on-road, looking at improvements within the existing curb. The third one, we received a lot of feedback on how much it would improve safety as well, and that was the street redesign off-road. And that includes improvements outside of the curb, but inside of the right-of-way, such as a side path providing separation from vehicles. And then finally, we have the greenways, which follow along utility easements or outside of the roadway right-of-way to create an off-road network. Throughout the project, we heard that people want more walkable and bikeable communities and safer routes. Regional connectivity is important, but people also want to be able to safely walk down the street to school or the store or the transit stop. The study ended up with almost 300 walking and biking recommendations as well, prioritizing them while still trying to maintain flexibility. Bicycle pedestrian accommodations were also explored and included where applicable for all of the roadway project recommendations. Last slide here, I wanted to go full circle with when we started this project, showing the graphic on the right down at the bottom there. So we brought this to you at the very first meeting, and I just wanted to reiterate how all local land use and transportation plans, as well as area studies such as this one, they all flow up into informing the prioritization of projects based on funding for CAMPA's region-wide Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which is actually in the update process now. The NEAS update workbook, including an appendix with a list of all the recommendations, the public engagement summary, and the policy guidebook are all up for review on CAMPA's website now. The public comment period has begun, with the study to be taken to the TCC and Executive Board for consideration of endorsement in August. We're also conducting final board briefings like this now, and we're looking for your endorsement or acknowledgement of the NEAS update study to be considered in future planning efforts, including the 2050 MTP. My contact information is here as well, so please feel free to reach out with any questions or comments. And again, thank you for all of your help with helping us spread the word during public engagement and all of your participation and for your time today. Thank you.